All right, Revenge of the Colon. Let's talk about it. This is a weird one, short one. Not a game I thought I would ever play, but it's a body horror indie game about being a gastroenterologist who must perform colonoscopies on a series of patients who are all citing various strange issues in their bowels. Look, it's weird, man. I get it. I know it's weird. I'm gonna say bowels a lot. I'm gonna be talking about people's guts. It is what it is. This is the game, and I kind of love it for that reason. And I was a little worried, honestly, when I booted up the game, because if you've played any number of indie horror games, you know that the genre kind of has a bad reputation for vilifying mental illness in a lot of their games. You can throw a rock in any direction and hit like any number of titles that show the main character like go insane and murder their family or go off their meds and do something terrible. And it's just a trend that I would love to see die out. I think it's pretty disrespectful towards a topic that does deserve a lot of respect, and I think it's generally done in bad taste. So when I booted up Revenge of the Colon, I was worried that we might see some of those same trends, and I was worried how they would deal with some medical conditions and mental health things like that show up in the game just sort of vaguely. But I was worried that it would use it for shocks, use it for cheap thrills, and I'm pleasantly surprised that it didn't really do that. Obviously, there are some eating disorders that are brought up, there is some health issues that are talked about in the game, but they're done in such a way that felt pretty respectful and pretty subdued. You have these opening scenes where you, as the doctor, are speaking with your patient and they're kind of giving you their history and their story as to what's going on with them. And the narration from the doctor is very professional. It's very reassuring. They ask questions, they don't shame, there's no gross out reactions. It's a very straightforward conversation with a medical professional, and it feels authentic and it feels respectful and good. And so I'm pleased to say that while the game does deal with these subjects, they're done very well. But things don't remain too serious for too long because the game does veer off into like cartoonishly horrific things towards the end of the game. It's about a 2 hour experience, and about an hour and a half of that is pretty straightforward conversations with patients and removal of obstructions from people's bowels. But as you get to the tail end of the game, it really ramps up into absurdity, and a lot of that sort of seriousness in the first half washes away. Okay, so what are you actually doing in Revenge of the Colon? You perform colonoscopies on patients and you work your way through their bowels and you search for obstructions or other little medical issues and you obliterate them with a small suite of medical instruments and sort of flush out the remains with your tools. That could be lodged food that gets stuck in there, or small little buildups of fat that you have to cauterize and cut out. And it's really weird and very light on the gameplay. It's a short game, like I said, couple hours, and it's much more about mood and atmosphere than complex gameplay. So it's like not really a knock against it. You can sort of scan each obstruction that you come across, and it gives you like a little bit of a tooltip as to how to remove it. So you cycle through your tools, you test out which ones work, and then you sort of rinse and repeat as you like work your way up. When you're done, you have to flush out the debris that's remaining. God, this is so weird. The debris that's remaining with a little water hose, and it's really weird because I found myself in like a flow state similar to like how you might find yourself playing Power Wash Simulator or something like House Flipper. It's ridiculous, and I know it's ridiculous, but like getting in a pattern of performing these routine little like first person shooter colonoscopies, it was engaging. It was weird, and it was engaging, and it had no business being, but it was. But this is a horror game, right? And it is. It's a horror game. It's sufficiently uncomfortable while you're playing, right? Obviously, the work that you're doing is upsetting enough, and the sort of setting being like literally inside of a person's colon is enough to make the game feel, cramped, and the sort of hazy, pixelated PS1 style graphics sort of choke down the environment in a way that I think really benefits it. It's good. You kind of progress forward through the colon, and there's this constant kind of low ambient droning kind of going on in the background. It's definitely eerie, and it's slow, and the darkness of the person's guts is definitely enough to like keep you wondering what's around like the next fleshy weird bend ahead of you. And it gets pretty gory too in the later stages. You'll have a patient that has an eating disorder that compels them to consume small metal objects. So you'll need to be removing paper clips and metal shavings and things like that. And, you know, you come across sections of the intestines that are inflamed and red, and it gets a little gory and a little gross. And that's, you know, the body horror thing that they're going for, and I think they do a good job with it. It's uncomfortable, it's dark, but again, it feels respectful in a way. And I felt when I saw this stretch of bowel that needed a lot of work, I thought to myself, okay, you know, we need to like get you fixed up. We need to get to the bottom of this, and it felt good to help a patient. It wasn't disgusting. It wasn't gross out. And I think that sort of oppressive atmosphere really only comes into play towards the tail end, where things just really spin into outlandishness, and you start getting, you know, fully formed fish inside the bowels that cry like human babies when you flush them away, and you get some eyeballs that are going around, and it gets a little crazy. So yeah, that's Revenge of the Colon. There's not much to say here. It's a really short little game, and the gameplay is pretty limited, but the atmosphere is claustrophobic enough, creepy enough, weird enough to be worth a trip through, I think, for a lot of horror fans. A couple of endings round out the game, depending on sort of how you go through and treat your patients. And, you know, you'll get 2 hours out of this, maybe a little more if you want to see all the endings. And I'm impressed. You know, I think they did a good job of telling this kind of story, of this kind of experience, while doing it with respect to the subject matter and a little less just pure gross out factor than you might expect. Okay, thanks for watching. I appreciate it. That's Revenge of the Colon, short video for a short game. I just wanted to highlight it. I think it's kind of fun and unique, and like I said, I was impressed with how they handled it, how they went about telling the story, even if the story is sort of nonsensical by the end. But worth checking out. You can get it for cheap on Steam. And yeah, that's it. So thanks for watching. I appreciate it. See you next time.